Thanks for staying with us. So recently, more than 1,400 Boko Haram repentant members have been reintegrated into society by the military through Operation Safe Corridor program. Recently, the Senate began deliberations on the bill that seeks to establish an agency that would see to the rehabilitation of these repentant insurgents. However, this proposed bill has since generated quite a bit of mixed reactions. Joining us on the show is a retired Colonel, Tony Inyam. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
And we have with us on the phone Professor Onibankole Fagbongbe. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. I'm here.
Thanks for having. He's the head of the Department of Psychology, University of Lagos. Welcome to the show, sir. Right, let's start with the Colonel. Good morning. Thanks for being on the show.
Sure.
Now, the issue of repentant Boko Haram was received by a lot of reactions and objections also. People just felt that, how can you bring back these people into the society? As a man who's been in the trenches, you've been there, do you believe that there's a need to actually have these repentant Boko Harams rehabilitated and brought back into society?
I think the thing is, first, in any society, there's always what is called PSYOPs operations, psychological operations, which one does in a kind of the war we were going through, which is an unconventional war. And in that, there is the principle of trying to win the hearts and mind of the public, and at times. But in all this, when you do this, you have to do this only when you are in. You see, there is something when you get into the plane, you are told, before you help anybody, you strap up first.
Help yourself first.
Now, here in our own case, I think it's too premature to rush into this. That's one. Two, the people, if you watch, all the stakeholders have kicked against it. Senator Ali Ndume kicked against it, and he's from that part of the country. Also, a rep, I think in Plateau, also kicked against it. The reason is, what is happening is that I would have thought that the victims of terrorism who are still in ID camps and the soldiers themselves who are not well catered for in operations, they should have been dealt with first, and before coming to this issue of dealing with repentant. All right, nothing wrong with that. But you see, I think we should not be copying what is done in some country outside mechanically. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So I understand that this is called DDR. So disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration is actually like an initiative of the UN, who is a leading partner in doing this. But I also understand that it's also context specific, as you say. So this issue that we have of the victims and also the families of probably fallen soldiers, sure. What are we doing? But can't it be done alongside this rehabilitation and reintegration? Does it have to be one over the other?
I think the thing is, we have to be careful. Now, in our contests in that part of the country, there's a lot of poverty. Now, if in rehabilitating someone, you give someone a better standard of living than where he left, then it becomes an incentive. And so the cry of the victims and the cry of the politicians in that area are saying that this is not good. It will be an incentive for many more people to go into it. And secondly, you see, the kind of challenges we have, these are people who are driven by ideology. And anybody driven by ideology cannot be bribed by material thing. So what the system would have done is to go into working with the clerics to try to radicalize by teaching them the correct de-radicalize them through using the clerics and other agency. But the rush to integrate them, I'm not saying nothing wrong with that, but you see, we have to be very careful, and because otherwise people will feel that you are giving advantage. So
The argument for is that this was the same system used to sort out the Niger Delta militancy at the time. What's the big deal about what they're doing now for the Boko Haram?
I'm from Niger Delta. I think it is an insult to
compare them.
To compare them. Niger Deltans and Lagos feed this country. Let's not make a mistake about it. These people, their territory, their land being destroyed forever. And they give this country almost 95% if you remove the invisible earnings that comes through Lagos. So to now equate Niger Delta with that is most. A Niger Delta person did not go out to go and bomb anybody somewhere.
Yeah.
So what I know is that even the locals, the victims in these areas, are not happy. So I think we need to deal with this matter is that...
So the apples and oranges, we can't compare.
Yeah,
Let me quickly come back to the psychologists, because one of the issues, Professor, one of the issues people have, the fear people have expressed is, how do you de-radicalize an organization that is built on an ideology? Yeah, is that even possible?
Is it possible?
As a psychologist, would you be able to answer that question?
Thank you very much. It is a Herculean task. Very, very difficult.
Okay.
Very, very difficult. Why? Number one, every behavior has a purpose. And behind every behavior is need satisfaction. And these are people whose minds have been conditioned to behave in a particular way. And when they do that, they get a satisfaction. You now want to de-radicalize them. Anything that has gone into our behavioral repertoire is difficult to remove. Therefore, what I will want the government to do, they shouldn't rush into the radicalization. They should plan it very well, because there are so many people involved. The soldiers who are dying, their relations, the victims of the Boko Haram and all these, there are so many. Not only that, we also have those whose life has been destroyed because of this Boko Haram.
Right.
Yeah. Now, bring the Boko Haram, the perpetrator of all those things, and say you are radicalizing them. It's not going to work, because you cannot kill people's feelings. You cannot kill people's perception. You cannot kill people's anticipation.
All right, point taken, sir. Go ahead, point here.
So I understand that this is a wrong move as a psychologist, because the truth is, by the time they are released into the society, they become vulnerable and become targets. And naturally, what I expected the government to do was to put them in a place where they act as intelligence to help win this war. Now, as a psychologist, what's the process you think naturally it will take to change their ideology if the government is serious about this?
You see, in changing people's behavior, there are 3 stages involved.
Okay.
First of all, you have to remove that undesirable behavior. These 3 processes will occur simultaneously, because if you do one and you are waiting to do the second one, there is the high probability of the one you have removed going back. So as you are removing, we call it decreasing. We call it in psychology decreasing, because that thing you want to remove is already in the behavioral repertoire of that person. So it takes time. It's like you want to remove a meat from your freezer. You have to defreeze if it has become glued to the freezer. Then as you are removing, you are replacing. Elimination by substitution. You are replacing. As you are replacing, then you are also stamping in. You are replacing. If you follow these 3 processes, then the probability that we will change the behavior is high.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Yeah, let me come back to Connor for a second, sir, because let's be fair.
Sure.
Many people say these are also Nigerians. and there are some of them that are actually truthfully repentant. There are many of them, even from the 1,400, many of them actually were rounded up. They're not actually people when they were not convicted Boko Haram members. Some were just rounded up. Now, for those who are genuinely repentant, don't they deserve that fair hearing to actually be reconciled to the society? Because it's all like we're all saying, crucify them. We don't want to see them. But some of them are genuinely repentant.
No. I mean, they use the word repentance.
Yes.
Repentant wouldn't have been we have a mix-up. There are those who may have been arrested wrongly. Those are not the ones we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those ones, obviously, it is injustice to do anything. But those who were really terrorists, who
Yes.
became that, no one is saying that they should not be.
They can't be.
But you see, first, there is very much limited resources. You have a case where there are people who, over the years, are still in camps. There are people who I have lost 3 family members, soldiers, in the Northeast. And so with all this, and their wives have left. Some of them, in fact, they died, they didn't even tell the family members. So the issue is, I would have thought that you should deal with this first. And I take the point that some may be useful intelligence agents and so on. There are ways of dealing with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So Nima had a question for the break. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to understand, because we're talking
Rehabilitation.
de-radicalization. Igbo. So recently, the northern elites, a Muslim group, I think, I can't remember, it was in the paper saying that, that they think that is a time, they advise the president that they should have a face-off with Boko Haram. Since Boko Haram is largely putting their ideologies basis on the Islamic religion, and that, and they seem to have every excuse in the book, which is not, that they think they should bring their scholars or whoever is behind their knowledge-based ideology, if it's truly knowledge-based, to come and have a face-off with the scholars of Islam in Nigeria who have the same knowledge, so that they can have a kind of knowledgeable argument where the people who are just adopting these ideologies will see exactly how baseless it is. Is that an alternative that you think government should take?
Obviously. Obviously. I think that is so. I remembered when there were radicals in the church, the mosque, Regent Park in London. And other clerics came up to take on the so-called extremists. And the great thing about it is, some of us were very curious in that Islam itself, the word Islam, it's peace. So, and the teachings, some of us, even though I'm not a Muslim, but I've taken time to read the Quran. At times I find it very hard where these people get the knowledge from that made them. I think people use the excuse of religion. Muslims, Christians, at times, use the knowledge of religion. After all, people justify slavery with Christianity.
Yes.
So, I think that's what you're suggesting is what the government should be doing, is to allow the people to own the fight. At the moment, where you take soldiers from different parts of the country to a place, there are times appear like forces of occupation. I would have thought that the JTF, the Civilian Justice Task Force, should play more role. They should be trained and armed. In other words, just as the governor of Borno is saying, we need to train them, make them soldiers on the ground.
Okay.
And I think that's better.
Now, finally, for Professor, are you still there, sir?
I'm here.
Now, so I'd like you to speak to the government at this moment, because obviously people are really uncomfortable. Some people actually felt that we were being a bit too unfair on those repentant Boko Haram members. But as psychologists, what would you think is the best approach to help? How do we find a middle ground with those who are truly repentant and those who we don't want them to be reconciled with society? So where do we find that middle ground as a psychologist? Where do you think we can?
Okay, thank you very much. As I said earlier, The radicalization is not a simple thing.
Okay.
In psychology, we use what is called UFF. That's unfreeze, replace, and refreeze. URR. URR. It's not, in this country, you don't just throw people. In psychology, there's what we call law of effect. Law of effect is any stimulus that brings pleasure will be maximized, and anyone that brings a pain will be minimized. That is the law we don't practice here. That is why people are unrepentant. They continue to do wholesome things with impunity. So when we have, especially in counseling, when we have situations like that, we first of all unfreeze. When we unfreeze, we replace. That is, we unfreeze. That is, we remove the undesirable behavior, and we replace it with the desirable. Therefore, when we replace it with the desirable, we ensure that it stays glued there. Therefore, the government needs, a center where these people, not making them to start living among them.
So what you're saying is that it is possible to actually rehabilitate. It's a difficult process, but it is possible.
It is possible.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to get. Okay, we have to run off here.
Yes. So, sir, do you think
It
this
is possible.
is a strategy of the government to actually win this war against Boko Haram?
The strategy I would have thought for the government to win the war is that, first of all, there need to be much more. The soldiers, the number of soldiers in the Northeast is too low for the challenge. They need to put in more troops and better equipped, and also they need to use the locals to be much more involved in their own defense.
Okay, final question.
Okay,
Should they change the service chiefs? Go ahead.
Okay. No, ask him.
Should they change?
Yeah.
Everybody is clamoring for them to change the service chiefs. Do you agree?
I have been on the vanguard that, first of all, the president himself was a military man. By breaching the norms of the military, in other words, service chiefs have tenure, it's affecting other officers and is causing low morale within the army.
God bless you, sir.
No battle.
So he should change.
It should.
Yeah, I had just, I was saying that I watched a few videos, and the human angle part of this war would really break your heart. And you mentioned the JTF, and then from the video, there are lots of people volunteering to join the JTF.
Sure.
Even women are right there in
True.
front.
Yes.
People who have lost their husbands have decided to take off
Yeah.
the mantle. So well done to them, but they really do need better weapons because they were taking some
That's
arcane.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thank you
on the
very
show.
much.
That's all we can take. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us on the show. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow.